having me. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Johnathan Judd, and I am the mayor of the great city of Moorhead, Minnesota. I want to send a special shout out and thanks and gratitude for the Creative Mornings team for inviting me here, as well as Livewire. Special love. They have a great facility here. Really blessed to be a part of this conversation. You know, when we speak about insecurity, nothing is more insecure than giving a talk in a virtual world where everyone can see you, but you can't see everyone. So it's one of those things that I'm trying to get used to in having these conversations. But before I begin, I want to send a special shout out to my wife, Tammy, 16 years today. Really blessed to have her in my life. So, got to start out with that, right? So, what I'm going to do is take the next few minutes to walk through insecurity through my lens. And when I tell this, I'm completely unscripted. I think that what people want to see out of their leadership are people that are just like them. Every day, having that strength to express your vulnerable side, which I think that brings us all closer together. So, in looking at me and listening to what I have to say, I may take it to a situation where many of you may have some experiences. And I want you to not feel sorry for me and my history, because the creativity aspect of growing up with insecurity has built me to be the person and hopefully the leader that I am today. So, insecurity through the lens of Johnathan Judd begins growing up in an aspect of generational poverty. So throughout my life, I've had to give a pause in the thought of my journey and where it began. Insecurity to me is not only being grown up in generational poverty, but have to get a lot of your clothes from yard sales because your grandparents couldn't afford to buy you the clothes that all your peers had. Insecurity from that is not having your father around and wondering why your father's never around, but also wondering when are you going to see your father. The insecurity is going to those school events, not having either one of your parents there, because your mother was absent as well. The insecurity of having to answer questions about why your parents weren't present and why your grandparents had to be the ones there. Walking through the lens of a single-digit child, having to answer these questions all the time, really was a painful process for me. And I think it took it to a whole nother level when I went through the educational system, where I was blessed to have a mind where I was able to do well on these tests, these standardized tests, but only to be told through various years throughout the educational system that even though you scored high enough on the tests to be in certain classrooms, you weren't invited to sit with your peers that scored just as high as you did. The insecurity of not knowing why is it that you, meaning me, weren't treated the same as your peers that looked different than you. The insecurity of knowing that every day you walked into school, there was always going to be at least one or two people that felt that you didn't belong in these classrooms and that you didn't earn the right to be sitting in those classrooms. Insecurity through my lens also talks about the fact that I had to watch when I did see my mother and I did see my father. It was a very abusive relationship. The insecurity of seeing your mother go through the pain emotionally and physically and having to also visit her in a hospital because you didn't understand why this was taking place. The insecurity of watching your mother go through this, the insecurity of watching your father, who you're supposed to love, treat someone that they love the way that they did. The insecurity of trying to figure out, as you navigate through watching this pain, how you can make something positive and grow from what you have observed on the very few times that you saw the people that loved you. The insecurity of growing up in a housing project and being the obese kid that always got picked last for teams, wishing you were as athletic as the others, and wondering why someone didn't see something in you that other people saw in others. Strength, resilience. The child that got mocked quite a bit for bringing books home from school and being called names for only trying to further your education. The insecurity of living in two worlds, trying to figure out how you could be cool with the black kids and cool with the white kids, and navigating those two worlds, hoping that you'll find yourself, your own identity, not being liked by the white kids because you're too dark, not being liked by the black kids because you're not black enough. It was a painful struggle and a process that furthered my insecurity. The insecurity of moving your senior year of high school to the state of North Dakota, only knowing one person and one family. Hoping that in that growth process, you'll find yourself. Because after all, no one else had left the family. They all stayed in North Carolina, but you were the only one, the oldest grandkid, the one with that people gave the hope that you would take something to another area, meaning the education, first-generation student. The hope and a promise of a family that grew up in institutional racism, in generational poverty, with the hope to change the story for the next generation. The insecurity of once you arrived in Fargo, then you attend Fargo North High School being the only African-American student out of 900. The insecurity of showing up and wondering whether you would be accepted. Would you experience racism? Would you experience the support from a community that you've only known for a matter of months? The insecurity of dating someone outside your race. The insecurity of walking around town wondering what people think of you. How do they look at you? Are they looking at you because you're interesting? Or are they looking at you with disdain and contempt? The insecurity of going to college for the first time, to tread the path that no one else in your family has ever gone, and trying to figure out your way through the process because, after all, there was no one around to show you the way, to show you how to do it, how to succeed, how to study, how to be responsible for getting up in the morning for those 8 o'clock classes. And a resilience to ask for help without thinking that you're weak for asking for that help. The insecurity of going to law school and being the only African American to ever, to my knowledge, attend UND Law School in a number of years. Wondering to yourself, did you get in on your merits? Do your peers think you got in on your merits? Or was it because you were black? Insecurity through my lens, to be the first in a lot of things. The insecurity of your professional career, walking into courtrooms, being the only person of color, walking into environments where you're taught to network, but you're the only person, again, that looks like you seated at the table. My career to get me to where I'm at has been a lifelong aspect of insecurity. To get me to this point in being mayor, I've had to walk through dealing with my own personal insecurities from the 10,000 level approach that I just provided you. And today I still deal with those insecurities. When I was running for mayor in a city that's 96% Caucasian, I had to really address whether or not I had the strength and resilience to do that. Throughout the campaign process, my insecurities from all that I just discussed really ramped up. Knocking on doors. Insecurity through my lens is knocking on doors of folks that you've never met before, and you got about 30 seconds to make a great impression. The stress of that insecurity still continues today as we talk about the conversations that we need to have, that we should be having regarding race and institutional racism in our society. The insecurity of standing here in other venues knowing that everything that you say could be used against you. Having these conversations feeling that you need, or feeling like you're speaking for your race, creates a very uncomfortable insecurity. Being in the middle and representing and heading an institution, i.e. government, where individuals within my race have always been skeptical and feeling like their needs have never been addressed, is an insecurity. The positive thing that we need to consider, and what I am processing through my journey in life, not only as a father, a husband, and a leader, is the creativity that comes from that insecurity. I have been very creative, and trust me, I don't consider myself to be a creative person. But I'm figuring out ways to have these conversations, these uncomfortable conversations, and creating safe spaces. The creativity of bringing and building community together. The creativity of trying to paint a picture of what our city, our community, our neighborhoods, and importantly, ourselves, how we can be together. I use my life of insecurity, and I feel I've been blessed to be insecure, because it's through that blessing and these life experiences that I've been able to be creative in how I hold these conversations within my city, within my region, to bring people together to talk about institutional racism and about building ourselves back stronger and being more resilient, much like I have become through my lifelong insecurities. But I want to finish by just stating that it's uncomfortable to be insecure, but I want you to be comfortable in your own insecurities, because I believe if I found the creativity in myself to have these conversations, I want you all to engage in these conversations by embracing your insecurity and acknowledging the creativity that we all have inside of us.